Hi, I'm Denise Dryden, and I'm doing my weekly check-in on what's going on energetically, what's going on with our bodies, what's going on with our relationships. And I'm always going to use the lens of a coach who works with relationships, relationship with energy, relationship with ourselves, relationship with the people around us, relationship with our community and the world. So today I want to talk about unwinding institutions from our life. And the reason I want to really talk about institutions today is that we have, for the last probably 2,000 years, been in a very structured, institution-based culture. And, I want to put a historical lens on that because I'm a history nerd, right? And also a relational perspective because I think it affects us, and it affects us as we are moving forward and has affected us for the last 50 years. So first and foremost, let's start with what an institution is. And so, going to the dictionary, I love to do this at the beginning. It's a custom, it's a practice, it's a relationship, or a behavioral pattern. So in institutions where we start a practice or a custom in a relationship, when we move it through, we keep it going, right? It's one long associated institution, or one long associated specific place, position, or function. So, to be an institute means that people go there to learn, they go there to study, they go there to work. And then I came across the one that I absolutely just blew my mind. Came out of Wikipedia. Institutions are humanly devised structures of rules and norms that shape and constrain individual behavior. Let's repeat that again because I think this is the most important part. Institutions are humanly devised. They're structures of rules and norms that shape and constrain individual behavior. And the reason that we're talking about this is that, throughout history, we have had indigenous tribes, past cultures, past belief systems, past practices through word. And in the last 2,000 plus years, what we have is this beginning of the Roman Empire. And I'm going to pick on the Romans for a while because the Romans were the most sophisticated expansion group that we'd come across in this current history. So what they were able to do was move into and conquer new territories. And when they did that, they brought in a religion and education process as well as an agricultural management system. So they brought in waters and aqueducts, and they brought in city streets and organization. They also paired with the beginning of Christianity, Catholicism, and so they built missions, they built education and religious facilities in all of these places. And in the process of that, there was this ranking, and it took me a little bit of time this weekend to find out, what is the real ranking in the institutions that I want to talk about. And so the historical sequencing is that first, it's a family and religion pairing, because what happens is a dogma comes in that says we know we have written down what the rules are, and we know what's best for you, and we want to teach you these. And then we're going to put constraints on how you marry, how you birth your children, how you christen them, how you educate them. And it is tied to a religious belief. So family and religion end up being the first two ways that we implement institutions into our human lives. After that, education steps in, which is we have the dogma in this book, and we want you to be able to read this book. We want you to be able to study and find out who you are and what you can do with this. And we have a feeder program where we want educated humans to continue learning and passing this on. So education becomes a humanly designed constraint system. And if we go back to the American Education Association, what we know is that a 9-month education from 8 to 3 every day is enough over 12 years to build in a response to authority. And that's what we're really looking at, is that these institutions hold authority. And when they hold authority, then they can we bring in things like medical, how we want you to treat your body, politics, how we want to lead, how we want to process the voting, and whether or not the vote is actually represented by those in power. Okay, so what happens is that we as humans entrain each other when we're on the same page. All you have to do is walk downtown on a holiday festival, whether it's the 4th of July, whether it's a winter stroll, whether it is a Hanukkah or a Christmas gathering or a solstice, and you can feel how everybody's in that same mode and they're all adhering and aligning with each other. So what happens is we duplicate and we match and we repeat what these institutions have taught us. So whether it's rituals and practices and then belief systems, what happens is that they're held in place. They're held in place, and they're conditioned responses to education, to expectations. And what I want to do is sort of insert the reason that I'm writing this Indigo assignment and talking about these new Earth kids is that there was a frequency that sort of started on our planet in mass in 1977. So we're looking at 50 years exactly this year, right? The first that came were the Indigos, and they're the destroyers. They're the ones who go into toxic family systems, family lines, institutions of medical, education, banking, financial, postal services, everything. And they're like, this is not working any longer, right? And so their frequency destroys. The next frequency that comes along in the crystals, which is the holders. They're the vibrational holders, and they hold the technology of the future. The rainbows are the bridgers. They're the ones who hold this blending of everything that can come together, sort of like the melting pot, the soup of all of us breaking away from conditioning and being who we are together. And then the diamonds hold the new world energy. They're the Aquarians. So when we have these kids coming and they power through these institutions, they power through church families, they power through education, they power through churches, religious practices, they power through medical systems, they power through politics. What happens is they can't align, they can't agree with these old institutions that we as a culture have followed for 2,000 years. They can't support it. They can't participate. It hurts their body, and it hurts their body, and we see it in their familial roles. We see it in their ability to grab a hold and support dogma and religion. We see it in their educational tracking, and we see it in that authority and leadership. So it's like, since, whether it's top down, whatever we want to call it, these kids are not doing it. And so I'm going to put all of us who are 60, 50, 40, 30, into the indigo crystal, and going like, yeah, it's changed. The world's changed a lot in the last 70 years. I can't believe how much the world has changed. My camera is just slowly sagging over to the right over here. It's really funny watching it. So I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Sorry about that. There we go. There. I don't know. The tripod was slipping. Okay. So what's happened is we've started dismantling. And if you think of how dismantling really starts, it starts first. Think of a house, think of a car, think of your body. It starts with, let's go pipes in the house. You get a leak, and you don't really know there's a leak. And it might just keep leaking until finally, you notice there's a spot on the drywall, or you notice that there's a dampness in the carpet, and you don't really pick up on it right away. So the dismantling, and it can happen internally with the cellular process. It can happen in the car with a broken air vent or a clutch that starts to go, right? A transmission. And what happens is our dismantling is happening from the inside out. And the kids are the ones who are picking up on, hey, don't you understand that the inside's already changed? And the outside just hasn't caught up yet. And so it affects everything. So we are 50 years into deep changes. And for those of you who are my age, you've looked at, equal pay, women's rights. We've looked at civil rights aligning and being supported, international collaborations. We're seeing things that there's this new alignment that's happening, right? So I have 6 tips for you today to sort of look at these institutions. They're not exactly to-dos like I usually give, but they're things that are thought-provoking. So I suggest that you rewatch this a couple times, maybe get your journal out, do some writing, find out what it is that you are actually experiencing with some of these questions. So tip number 1, your path. What have you noticed about where you're aligned and where you follow blindly, where you follow with a little bit of discernment, or where you go, I'm not going there, right? So where you've stepped back and where you are seeing individualism in yourself. And then turn around and look at the institutions. Which ones do I support? Which ones do I trust? Do I trust the banking system right now? Do I trust the medical agencies? Do I trust the political environment? Do I trust education? What's happening with my kids, right? What's changed for you, especially in the last 2.5 years, as you've taken a break out of some of this and you're going, wait, I don't know that I really want to go back to that, right? So you start with you. Number 2, if you're raising kids, what challenges have they had? Whether it's at school, whether it's with teachers, whether it's with the religion that you practice. Do they have learning differences? Are they not interested in reading and writing and filling out handouts anymore, or doing rote memorization? Do they have sensitivities that they can no longer support in the school system? What new directions of interest have they taken that you're going like, wow, this kid really likes this topic and wants to go that way? What happened during the lockdown, and what happened when school resumed? What's going on? Really pay attention. What are the kids telling me? So whether you have your own kids, whether you have grandkids, whether you have friends with kids, start asking some questions and looking around. What are the kids really telling us that they need? Number 3, explore 3 concepts. And one is resonance and dissonance, which are where your feelings and your heart tells you, ooh, this doesn't feel good in my body. I don't really like this. It's not aligning with me, or oh my, when I step closer, it's so me. I feel expanded and I feel happy. Congruent or incongruent. Congruent means like that lines up with everything that I see, think, feel, like all the pieces are coming together. Incongruent is like there's pieces missing and I can't just step in. So it's when we're in our thinking, when we're in our mind, right? And we're putting some pieces together. And then the other is instinctive. Are my instincts open and paying attention? Or are they shut down and are they protected? My nervous system, right? And knowing, it's about knowing, and it's about this intuitive knowing, and it comes from your gut. So these are the 3 intelligences, right? And these 3 intelligences aren't separate. They all work together. So our congruency with what we're seeing and how it lines up with the resonance and how we're feeling and our instincts, they all work together in a system. Is your system paying attention, and what is it telling you, right? And so what happens when, number 4, you know the difference between comfort and discomfort, and when you feel like you're being tapped by one of these areas, whether it's resonance, whether it's congruency, or whether it's instinct. Like, I feel really uncomfortable when I go to church now. I feel super uncomfortable dropping my kids off at school because everything in my body tells them that they're miserable. Pay attention to where these old known things are no longer working. Number 5, have meaningful conversations with yourself, with the others in your life. Explore what you're noticing, what you need, what you want, and what you desire, and where you're compromising and where you're not. And explore with your partner, hey, is this really where we want to live? Is this what we want to do? What are your needs? Do you really want to work this job anymore? And then do that with each of your children, or do that with all of your family together, which is, what do we need? What do we want? Here in the Flathead Valley, we watched almost 40,000 people move here from big cities because they knew that they needed something quieter, something different. And it was interesting to watch, who came in and what kind of pain they brought with them, and what kind of joy they see when they come into these mountain towns. And I've lived in a lot of mountain towns and watched this happen. I've been up in the Park City area, I've been in Bend, Oregon, I'm now in Whitefish, Montana, and watching new people who know in their soul and their heart and soul needs something a little bit more peaceful. It's fun to watch what happens when everyone aligns and goes, we desire to be doing something different. And number 6, allow your physical established world to change. Whether it's the location, whether it's the house, whether it's the community, whether you downsize, whether you move to a different part of town, whether you moved so that you're under trees because you always need the sound of, aspen trees and leaves blowing because it relaxes you. Whether it's school and learning and what your kids need, and how do you continue creating self-study, homeschooling if your kids don't want to be in school. Relationships, it's really common right now that the physical world is changing, and some of this death do you part and partnerships for the rest of your life, you're going, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore, because we both desire different paths, and it's okay. So what we're doing is we're pulling apart and we're dismantling leadership, we're dismantling our commitments, we're dismantling our participation, we're dismantling our compliance with institutions, and we're breaking into new territory. So we lead and we play and we explore and we hold, and we hold or go like, I'm not sure if I want to go that way, but I'm starting to pay attention to what this might be. Or we dig in and refuse. Pay attention to where you are as these unwinding of institutions are happening and as the world is changing. And this is the kind of stuff that I offer, videos, I offer support in coaching, and I would love to hear from you if you think I can be of service. So have a wonderful week. It's summer, it's July, it's hot, it's fun to be outside. Enjoy it, and I will see you next week. Oh, also, by the way, you can find me at denisestryden.com, and make sure to like, share, do anything you can with this video to get it out there, because I would really appreciate that. Take care. Bye-bye.